Okay.
Hello, good people. Another Friday evening, and today we got an opportunity to have a chat with Brian Kimanzi. He's an advertising creative, a social media influencer. By the way, Kimanzi was ranked the third top influencer in Kenya 2021 by Wanjiku Reports. Is that right? You also remember, I know that you also you write copy. You make sure that everything looks good and yeah. So I also know that you are into fashion. Ladies, I know ladies always come into a DM. I always see those tweets about "Yaani nimefika wapi." But today, today we are going to have a very serious talk about what Kimanzi does, and people don't know you, like people know you, what you wear, how you wear, like how you look, etc. How those women thirst new and etc. But today, Kimanzi, I just want you to briefly, just talk about yourself. Tell people what they don't know about you. Because I know most people know about you as an influencer, as a person who dresses well, neatly. But I'm very sure you have something that no one, or rather, a lot of people don't know about you.
Let me see. What don't people know? I live alone. So uh, you can hear me well.
Yes, yes.
I work in advertising. I'm a copywriter by office. Um, I say by office because I work from home, yes, and sometimes office work can end up taking up leisure hours or other hours. Other than that, what else do you want to know, Kevin?
No, just something that
You know
you think
how
people don't
how
know about
you
you.
know that
I'm
that
a
question is,
section with, yes.
to be honest, I usually find that question one of the hardest. It's like when someone tells you, "Tell me about yourself." I'm like, wow, that's a hard question because you see, you just go on life. I don't think about myself at most times because I'm always doing something different. I don't think about this is my biography. This is what I'll tell people that is about me. Other than unless we keep talking, then along the conversation, it's easier now to speak up and find things that are about me that someone might hear and say, "Oh, I didn't know that." I
Okay,
hope
okay, okay.
that-
So just briefly, just take us, I want to know one of the questions that I normally ask our visitors is, when did you fall in love with copywriting, advertising?
with advertising.
Yeah. Is this something
Uh,
that has been in you since you were a kid, or is something that you just, learned on your way to being an adult?
Both actually. Both in the sense that when I was a kid, my mom once told me that I was auditioned. I think I was 3 years or two. I don't remember. I was auditioned for a Jago advert, and I cried so much when I wasn't in the presence of my mom, and that's how I failed. So that's a story I was told growing up, and so I looked at it as a missed opportunity. I mean, even growing up, I always wanted to be on screen. Sorry,
Okay.
I wanted to be on screen, either as an actor, because I even did acting classes. Attended. I loved drama from primary all through secondary. So for me, acting is something that I also did Vines 2013, 14, 15. So that is something that I've always done in TV or on screen, not on TV.
Okay. Um, then Kimanzi, I know you're a good copywriter. I've seen your work. Actually, the latest work being the Tusker advert. Uh, the one that you did, I remember with Ed Wainaina.
Yeah.
So just yes, it was a very dope advert, to be honest. And I'd really want to know, do you have a procedure or rather a process that you follow, or actually something, a norm that you do to have this good copy? Is there like a procedure for you when you want to write good copy, or is just something that comes into your mind and you draft it?
I mean, by in advertising, the end product is what is actually seen. People only see the end product, not the behind the scenes, not the sweat, the sleepless nights, and everything that happened before that. So, I mean, by the time we are getting to that, would you believe if I told you we've done, I can't even count the number of scripts that we did to get to that point. So it's usually grinding and grinding until we hit the right spot. Be it a headline, be it a copy, be it anything. So it's always trying to venture in different angles, look at it from one angle, a different angle, until we get something that will appeal to especially the target audience for the brand and the mass in general, and also what they are trying to achieve.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that, Kimanzi. You being a good copywriter, and let me just be honest with you. Your work out here is really impressive. So now let's talk about the influencer spacing in Kenya.
Can I get a meeting? I promised I will post the link once it starts, and I was just trying here to get a
Okay, sure. You can just do
just
that.
this very second before we continue.
Okay.
Okay, I can even hear myself. Is it okay? Just 1 second, bear with me.
Right.
Kimanzi. Okay, at least that is gone because I know I'd promised to do it. Okay, now we can continue.
Okay, cool. So I want us now to talk about the influencing scope in Kenya. When I'm talking about the influencer scope in Kenya, I'm talking about influencers who are, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So, and
Yeah.
TikTok, by the way. Yeah.
Yes.
And I know you are very big on Instagram and Twitter. So
I'm
maybe
just
in your work, because,
I'm just
yeah,
active. And I'm
sorry?
just active I'm just active on the platforms. Let's just go with that.
Yes, being active means you're big. People follow you. People want to know what are you posting next, etc.
Nah, not
So,
necessarily. You're just active.
so it's okay. Between these platforms, which one would you say it's a very powerful platform for a brand? A brand must have it.
Okay, it's been changing because with from my point of view, influencing with brands started dominantly on Twitter and Facebook on the onset, early years. But with time, now they've been able now to venture into all these different platforms now, Instagram, YouTube as well, and even TikTok, and also depends on the product. So if a product is visual, it requires a lot of visual content. It would be better off being on a visual platform that's mainly Instagram and TikTok. And that's mainly because way back Twitter didn't have that feature, and then as usual, Twitter always updates its stuff. So when they updated, and now we're able now to also do visual, because you remember Twitter as early as of 2012, 13, 14, I think 2012 and 13, you couldn't do much visual posting, be it a picture or a video. So
Okay.
that's why brands started off with that, which was mainly tweets and a hashtag. And not many people in the Instagram space as influencers. It was just on the Instagram space as just people posting photos of themselves. And yeah.
Okay. Maybe I know you joined Twitter a bit earlier. I can't remember the year, but maybe would you just take us back how Twitter was back then and how Twitter is right now? Is there something that is there a difference of how the app has evolved, etc.? You are good to tell us that,
Well,
because yeah.
well, of course, the app on its own has really grown. Twitter, Kitambo. If you ask anyone who joined Twitter, the first time they join, they enter, they're like, "What is going on here?" Then leave, then come back months later or weeks later. Then they're like, "This is the best app ever." And from the early, I joined in, I think 2011. Yeah, 2011. I went through the same phase, joining, then didn't understand what's going on, then left, went back to Facebook. Then Facebook now with your relatives, I don't know, your auntie, your cousin, everyone now following you. And then we felt at that point in time we are not really ready to show our relatives that side of social media, because we felt like most people usually felt like relatives entering your social media space was like them trespassing into a space that you have not welcomed them. And I mean, people didn't want older relatives because of the judgment, and you also don't know what you'll post today. You might just post yourself going to a party, and umeitiwa pasta kesho from wherever you are. And that time was when people in campus, late secondary. So yeah, people were very cautious of who. So again, there was that small migration to Twitter because people were running to a place where you don't need to know anyone there. Of course, when it started, it was a small number, so it was easier to interact with Kenyans amongst themselves because of it was a small number, and then it's just a platform where people air out what they are saying, just what's on their mind, tweeting anything, and then now with that, you see, slowly by slowly, it starts creating like a community of people, and then you just end up chatting over anything and everything, and that's how, like, the people we met when we joined in 2011, the early years, we are great friends to date. People became more and more friends. Some married, some became best friends, business partners, uh, just meeting like-minded people and also people with common interest.
Oh, okay. Great. So also, will you maybe touch on how brands used to, to leverage on social media, okay, Twitter, during those times between 2009 to 2011? How was the influencing space among brands on Twitter and other social media platforms?
From my own understanding, it wasn't very much. It wasn't as massive as it is right now. And it was more of like agencies trying to tell clients that you can also market in a platform on a social media platform where you have an audience. And from then, of course, like I remember, it was only bold brands that would do that from way back. It was not very many brands could do so. So only those that were bold enough, and to be precise, those that were even young and energetic, that had the TA of young people. So if you see, like, most people will tell you like the most successful campaigns that time were like Smirnoff, especially Smirnoff Guarana, that came in, I don't know, was it 2014? And it was very, very successful from a brand perspective and also influence in space because of the T8 targeted. So I mean, and then telecoms like Safcom also were at least willing to work with people on different products, be it a bundle with, be it a package that you're selling. So slowly by slowly now it started. Now you see, one brand says that, oh, this is working, and then I see as a system, as Kenya, people tend to work with things that if it's working that side, it can work here. Now that's how I think other brands started joining in, and now it becomes easier to convince other brands to now venture into this space because you see it's working. And the reason influencers came into this space or online marketing was more because they became the intermediary between the brand and the consumer. Because now you see a person I relate to, this, I talk to this person every day. I talk to ABC on a daily. So how about you see, influencing happens whether online, offline, everywhere. If you meet me today and I tell you I got this blazer from somewhere, you'll ask me where, and because you've seen it looks good on me, you'll also want it. So you see, it's more or less the same thing that now transferred to online space.
All right, Kimanzi. Great insights. I'm glad to know that. I didn't know that Man of Gorana grew from the Twitter space, influencing space, and now I know that. Let's talk about marketing for small business versus marketing uh, the top big brands in Kenya on the
Mhm.
social media platforms. So
Okay.
I know maybe just from your perspective, a personal perspective, is there a brand that right now people didn't know about it, and right now it's one of the most for you as per you, it's one of the most biggest or rather competitive brand that grew due to the Twitter influencing space? Is there a brand that you
Uh,
can recall, a brand that grew due to Twitter space?
Let me see. It's from the top of my mind, I can't think of any. But generally, I think, let's see. I don't know. Indomil is not really a small brand. I mean, Indomil has been there since when I was in high school. It's been there forever. But when they ventured into the Twitter space for online influencing, the impact was really, really big. If they with the influencers they worked with them in a very hands-on manner, and things worked for them as a brand. Visibility was everywhere, and then you'd see tours to different parts of the country. That all started from there. Whether they depends on their strategy and who they were targeting, and from what I think, it worked. Oh, then another one I remembered, Safe Border. Safe Border, when it landed in Kenya, you see, Safe Border was like an Uber for, or rather, using motorbikes or getting from an app, which was very new to Kenya one, and also new to the border space. But because people had this perception about border rights, so with that, Safe Border was also able to, because it was more of a city thing, and one of the best platforms to use was social media. Twitter, I don't know if it was worked on Facebook, and
Okay.
also Instagram. From time to time, people used it to showcase the use of Safe Border, and that also happened. It's unfortunate that it didn't go on as of last year. Things went sideways, but I do believe even that one started off as a small business, but the impact it had on social media, and how, or rather, the impact social media had on it was really great.
All right. Thanks, Kimanzi. I think that was well thought. So we have a question here for you from Owino Nisi. She's asking, are agencies necessary?
Well, sorry, my phone's give me sorry. So that's really having been an employee of one. I mean, I'd say it's very. It depends with how you look at it, but uh, for a long time, agencies have been necessary because they've moderated and have. You see, it's very hard. For a long time, it was hard for an individual to walk up to a brand, knock on the door, and say, "Hey, I want to work with you." Um, so agencies for a long time have been the intermediary. Yes, of course, they controlled how it was done, but were it not for agencies being in the picture, I don't think this space would even be possible, because the online space of influencing and marketing, because not all brands used to work in a very mainstream way. So as long as a brand does their adverts on radio, TV, billboards, newspaper, they have done their marketing bit. But now you see, with changing times, the digital space came into the picture. Things started changing communication-wise. People are consuming information differently. So how do you make sure that the way people are consuming information, the agencies are there? So that involves strategists, people going into strategy and looking at how we can take advantage of this. So agencies really created this platform, from what I believe, looking at it now. With time, that's not dependent on how many brands will be willing to work one-on-one. And you see, at the end of the day, brands don't not only use social media. Brands also go advertise differently, billboards, because brands don't target Nairobi alone or just a metropolitan. Brands target an entire country, and you can't really say that you can sell your products through influencers to the entire nation. So
Wow.
that's why this is still necessary for them to disseminate information and products throughout the country through different mediums, because radio is still strong, TV is still there, billboards are still there.
All right, all right. I think Nisi, you've heard that from Kimanzi. So also Kimanzi, just to ask you, how do you choose not to work with certain brands? Do you have the like ethical boundaries for which you follow to work with certain brands, or you just work? You have to secure the bag.
I mean, of course, it depends with how you feel as a person when you're working with something. You see, it's not just work for the sake of work, but for you to be successful. I mean, it depends with how people view things. For me personally, I work with what I can align with. It would be hard. It would be hard for me to work with a brand as that I cannot in entirely do something with them, because at no point do I even see myself working with a product that they have. So it's only for me. It only depends of does it align to my brand as well? Is it something that I can use? Is it something that if I use I can vouch for? So you see, it that way. I believe that if you work with something that you love, one, and something that actually speaks to you as a person, it's easier now to even, because you see at the end of the day as an influencer you end up being an image of the brand, a representative of the brand. So if you're representing something you don't vouch for, it even becomes hard for you to work, not only just secure the bag. And if it becomes hard for you to work as a person, it now makes it very difficult to do everything.
Okay, okay. That's great. So maybe have you ever turned down a job because you thought it was unethical?
Unethical, I think I have. I'm not sure, but I think I have.
You can't remember the details. Of course, I know you faced like you've been in a place where you had to choose between your rapport and the money. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I'm asking. Can you
Um,
maybe remember what happened or what made you turn down the offer? You
I
don't have
mean,
to
if
mention.
it's, of
Yeah, you
course, of
don't.
course. I I mean, if it's something that I don't align with, it would be hard for me to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you see, even if I create my vision board for the brand and how the campaign can turn out, and if something is not working, it would be hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa sawa. I know we both work in agency. We are in the agency world, and maybe just from your personal point of view, what's your worst day working with an agency? Like, what makes really a bad day for you? This is a question from Awino Nisi.
A bad day. Huh. I mean, not every day is rosy at work. Not every day will be a good day, but I don't see days as bad days. I just see them as challenging. If we couldn't make it work today, we will see how to make it work tomorrow.
Mhm. All right, all right. So Kimanzi, I want to talk about your sense of fashion. Someone told me they really like how you dresses. I don't know,
Thank
like, do you feel sometimes they don't get the message or whatever you're trying to pass them, you're trying to pass, or they focus more on how you dress? I don't know if Kama that has ever, crossed your mind. Or let me just, let me start by asking, when did you start, feeling like you are into fashion? Like this is the way I want to dress. Of course, everyone dresses, but I mean, you are up there. Is there like a motivation for you?
I think my entire life. If I'm thinking of a time, there's no time frame because even from if I show you my baby pictures there, I'm overly dressed. So it's not necessarily because of a certain time. And to be honest, for me, it's normal. I didn't see it as dressing up or anything. For me, it's just looking good and that's it. So even from time to time, even just meeting up with friends, even back then, meeting up with friends, people are like, hey, no, cause smart sana. I'm like, just dressed. I didn't really think much about it. But then you get A, B, C people telling you the same thing, and to you, you're like, ah. So I just put on a few pieces together and came over. I didn't
Okay.
really have much. I didn't really think of it that way much. I didn't put much thought into it.
Mm-hmm.
But now, of course, with time, because I even remember I never used to take photos. Then I had this photographer friend who kept telling me, "You look nice. You dress too well. I should take you photos." And I was like, I don't think so. But now, of course, now that happened. And now, of course, more and more people start saying, and then you're like, okay,
Uh-huh. So
yeah.
that's where it hit you that you think you really love fashion. So of course, I also love to dress nicely and neatly. I remember growing up, MTV Base. If you remember MTV Base 106 and Park, it had a very huge influence on how
Ni
on
mlikuwa
how
mmeomoka. MTV Base na 106 Park. Ni
See,
mmeomoka.
tulikuwa high school. So I used to watch on the Six and Park.
Ah,
Remember,
us at least the best when your MTV Base is that East African TV that I don't even remember the name.
yeah, I remember East African TV, but it's MTV Base near Josie. So I mean, MTV Base for me, I'd say it really influenced, my, sense of dressing. For you, like you can juggle between an official dressing, an attire, an official attire. I've also seen you do some TBTs, and then it got me, really wondering, is this, something that are you influenced by old music, or old movies? Yeah.
Um, Not even just art in general. Yes, of course, I might watch a movie and see. Actually, I used to watch TCM movies growing up,
Okay.
and I was really intrigued by a lot. Just from now, the setup, the TVs, the telephones, everything about it was very intriguing to me. Then the dressing. Then in my head, I always like, why don't people dress like this anymore? Have people gotten tired of dressing? I never understood because you're a kid and you're growing up. You see how men would do three-piece suits and a walking stick and a hat. You're like, hey, that's really dope. I don't know why people don't do it anymore.
Hmm.
Then other than that, some just trying also reading a lot. And then you see when you read, like let's say you're reading a novel, an article, or something, and especially novels. I'll use novels as an example because in novels people used to describe how they dress.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you read a novel, especially now, of course, when I say growing up, novels that I read were novels from way back, not way. At that time, I don't think we'd have recently released ones.
Okay.
So with those ones, you create this mental picture in your head, and then from the outcome in your head, you're like, wow, that's a really nice outfit, be it male, be it female. So even those creations helped me do a lot of imaginations in my own head, and also now that also now transferred to me now creating things in my head, and they just fit there. And then with time, you start seeing how you can make something work.
Okay. Sawa sawa. Well, also I know you are like everywhere. For me, I'd say that Kimanzi is everywhere. Dancing, fashion, influencing, everywhere. So is there something that you really can't do, Kimanzi?
Wow, of course, there are many things I can't do.
Please
I
tell
can't
us,
do
tell
everything,
us.
please. Hmm?
Want to know your weaknesses.
Why would I be shouting my weaknesses on a live platform? That's dangerous. That's someone
Okay,
saying
just tell
impersonate
us
me.
something. Okay, maybe just mention something that you are really struggling with to learn of late, or rather recently, but you know, you want to
Okay,
get.
my weakness. The one thing I know for sure is I can't sing. I wish I could, by the way. I wish I could sing. I'd be somewhere collaborating with Chris Brown and the likes. But yeah, that I wasn't given.
Yeah, do you remember that day that you bragged? This is the closest I could get to Chris Brown. When your comment and Chris Brown, I don't know, it was an Instagram live for Tory Lanez. They
Yes,
connected radio. You posted a comment, and then Chris Brown posted a comment, and your comment followed.
yes.
I remember that.
Yeah, so because I know I cannot be with him in studio. I mean, that will be the closest.
No, but you have to keep your dreams alive, Kimanzi. You never know.
If I'll be with him in studio, the only way I would be with him in studio is maybe as a producer or maybe
Yes,
as a
yes,
visual artist or a
yes.
wardrobe guy,
Mhm.
not as a singer.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I meant you don't have to be a singer to be with him in the studio. You can even be, um, his fashion, a fashion stylist. You never know.
They don't look to this side of the world. They are very involved in their own things. People there study for these things and have real jobs. So it would be a million years before they see this part of the world. They imagine, sorry,
Uh-huh.
they imagine. I'm getting so. They imagine we all dress like in very traditional attire, so it would be hard.
Okay, okay, okay. Um, at this point, Manzi, Twitter introduced something. Well, I know. Well, Twitter is a very powerful platform for brands, for everyone. And sometimes people think that only the intellects, are the ones who are on Twitter, because it seems to be a very difficult and tricky app. But there has been this conversation about Twitter Space replacing mainstream media. I just want to understand from your personal point of view, what do you think about Twitter Space?
Well, of course, it's a great platform. It's not old. It's a few months old, but yes, it's a great platform. And we've seen how it's been received, and it's been able now. You see, from when I tell you when joining Twitter back in 2010, 11, how people just connect through tweets or mchongoano or anything. Nowadays, you have people doing it now through audio spaces. Like, of course, before Twitter came, there was a Clubhouse. Podcasts have been there forever, not forever, but for a minute. So Twitter Spaces now, when they recently came in, the advantage is anything that is introduced to Twitter is always introduced to a ready market. So when Twitter introduces stories, fleets, there's a ready market for it. When they introduce a video feature, there's a ready market for it. When they introduce live, there's a ready market for it. So even when they introduced spaces, it wasn't like podcast where podcast had to start from the ground. Twitter always introduces when there's a ready market, and the ready market has already consumed all these things from different platforms. So, because it's the people on Twitter who end up listening to Clubhouse, who join in Clubhouse. The people on Twitter always showing us links to podcasts they listen to. So, when Twitter Spaces came in, it came in now at a point in time where it's already been consumed severally, a lot. So, when it started, now, of course, people started doing it from time to time. It's a great space. Conversations are real time. You see, it's conversations are real time. If we're talking about an issue at this time. Whatever we're doing it here and here. So,
Okay.
but now, unfortunately, the percentage of Kenya on social media is not very big. Yes, you see, people only consume what's relevant to them. So every day, if I wake up and go to Twitter, I'll only consume information from Twitter. And if I wake up and buy a newspaper, that's where I'll consume. If I wake up and listen to radio, that's where I'll consume. So the debate about Twitter Spaces doing radio stuff is still very young, mostly because of the percentage. One, too, and it might take a milestone for it to develop. You see, to date, the same Twitter platform that now has spaces where people are consuming, it's been there for over 10 years, but not everyone knows it. Not everyone is part of it. But traditional media still has monopoly over all this.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Kimanzi, because I know it's a ongoing conversation between influencers about Twitter space replacing mainstream media. And for me, well, I did media. I know radio is a very powerful tool in Africa.
Yeah.
And TV came, but radio still, still undefeated. You can never replace radio. People
Right.
from
And then you see
yeah,
brands would rather spend a big budget on radio than anywhere else.
yes. So I was saying, for me, I think, well, Twitter space, it's gonna take a while to replace, or just even not to replace, just to get where mainstream media is at right now. Before, unless maybe in the 22nd century it is Yuko, but right
Maybe
now,
it will need to wipe out the entire generation that is
yeah,
what is it? How will I put it? The entire generation that has the purchasing power, and
yes.
the purchasing power transfers now to people in the social media world.
Mm-hmm. Sour. So I know social media has its own positive, you know, positive impact and negative impacts. So I want to talk about negative impacts. Um, Twitter being one of my case studies. Sometimes I just log out because that place can be really, really toxic. You as Kimanzi, have you ever been trolled, or have you ever trolled someone?
I think both. I don't know. You see, you might say something, you might be communicating with someone or something, and people take it differently. So it's really not about. You see, it's a very touchy issue, this one, because there are people who have been affected with trolling, and there are people who have trolled and taken pride in it. So I usually find it very touchy, and you might say something wrong. So I think that one I usually just let go.
Okay. So maybe just but okay, I don't know what are your views for people who like they post or rather comment about their private life on some of these social media platforms. Because for me, I realized when someone is being trolled, either they posted a picture or they brought their private issues on the platform, and then of course kuna tu wale cloud chasers who will drag you mbaya sana. Maybe you can just mean what you advise to such people. Do you think it's
No, you see, I don't think
self-inflicted? Uh-huh.
I don't think the advice would be to people who post their things. You see, people take social media. How I understand social media and why I joined is different from how you joined or how someone else joined. So everyone has their way and what they find comfortable with them. There are people who are okay sharing their stuff. There are people who are comfortable. That's where they feel like they want to share their private life or share their success stories, share their day-to-day life, different things.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you cannot dictate how someone does their own thing. You see, if my style is posting photos of me and my family, you see, that's what I consume. It's kind of backward to always find a reason to make fun, but again, you see, there's no age cap to join in. And for some people, if I come from a background where my entire background from childhood to adulthood has been making fun of people, no one told me it's wrong, I wouldn't see any wrong. If my growing up involved a lot of bad mouthing and whatnot, to me it's normal. So when I enter a place, you see, social media connects you with someone you've never met, different people, different from all across. You'd never know. You might be talking to someone in the first world, another part of the world, but it's you only know something is wrong if you use it in somewhere different, and then now people tell you, okay, that's not very nice, that's different. So mostly it involves a lot of learning. All these things involve a lot of learning, because there's no manual of how these things are run, and everyone just joins in and just lives their life. So
Okay.
yeah.
Sawa. Well, that was very insightful, by the way. And if you know you are a bully, please go slow on people. Huh? Let's now talk about you. I know in agency, every time, every damn morning, we're being told content is king. You've heard of that, right? Content is king everywhere. So, Kimanzi, you tweet, you are a copywriter, you also make videos. So, how do you manage to navigate all this at the same time? Because for me, I know once you are good at writing, that's it. I mean, once you are good at copywriting, that's it. But for you, everywhere, like you are everywhere, you occupy all these spaces. How do you manage to navigate among all these spaces?
Generally, it's just, I don't know. I wouldn't say balance. I just say just staying committed to each cause,
Mm-hmm.
to what works for you.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you feel like you can create videos, but you don't have the time, or you can be online and you don't have the time to, if it's burning in you to always try, like for me, if I'm not doing all these things, there's something I feel like I'm missing on something. I have the certain urge that's not being satisfied, so I end up now, I'll create, like you always say, you can always create time. Of course, it's not been easy, but with time you can create time. With time, once you learn how you can deliver on each job, it becomes easy even for you, at least at the most bare minimum, deliver on each job. That way, it even becomes easier for you now to create time for yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to learn that, Kimanzi. So, on to another question or rather topic. I want us to discuss how, uh, okay, maybe personally, I'm still struggling to, create a network or rather following on social media. Okay, well, Twitter. So I know you're big, very influential. You said, I say influential, yeah? So maybe just, an advice or rather thoughts on how people can create that community and have an engaging community. What's the procedure or rather what's the process for that?
You've already put you have your answer in your question. You said engaging community. So you see, if it's always awkward when people say they want to create a following, but they just enter these platforms and just scroll through without even tweeting or without even commenting on something, without anything necessarily. So you see, that would be even hard for you to gain a community or create a community.
Mhm.
And people create communities through engagement, one, and two, you see, there's something you've seen. You've entered online and seen someone tweet something, and when you see them tweet, you're like, I relate to that. This person makes sense to me. So you see, and then tomorrow you see him doing the same, or she, and then another day you see that is someone you end up finding like, we can relate with this one. You end up now communicating with them, engaging with them, and then different things, because people follow you every time someone presses a follow. They follow you because of something that attracted them to you. Be it a tweet, be it a photo, be it a video, or just be it certain topics. As long as people feel like you are like-minded like them, or have a they see something that you do, that way that can happen.
Okay. So maybe everyone has their favorite influencer on every social media platform. I believe that kuna wale watu wherever before they sleep ama when they wake up they have to check what Eddie Gobari has posted ama what Nairobi Gossip has posted. For you, Kimanzi, who's your one like go-to influencer? When you wake up in the morning, you have to go to their timeline, or before you sleep, you have to check their timeline.
Yeah, if I told you, I've battled this question not just because of a favorite person, even my entire life, and I'm asked who's your favorite so and so, who's your favorite sportsman, who's your favorite what, I've never had an answer.
Uh-huh.
Mostly because I learned how to appreciate everyone differently.
Okay.
And for me, especially when you put a so and so influencer, because of course I'm also in that space,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate a lot what so many people are doing because people are creating good stuff. People are engaging so much. People are doing things out of their own craft to and partnering with brands to create things that will be consumed by the market. So for
Okay.
me, it's not about who's favorite and who's not. It's just more like everyone is doing their own craft. So I will consume a lot of influencer work from whoever does whatever campaign is being done. What are people doing in this campaign? What is the desired result? Is it achieved? If so, yes, people did their job.
Okay, okay. Great, great, great. Time is not on our side. I think we are almost closing, but before we do that, I just want to know your thoughts on where you think the influencing space in Kenya will be in the future, or rather, where it's going to head in the future. Have you ever thought
Uh,
about that?
I mean, it's growing compared to when it started, and now things are really better. Things are much better, more understanding. Brands are understanding, influencers are getting a grip of a lot. Consumers are also supporting all this work. So you see, with time, with every new development, things change. I don't know where it will be 3 years from now, but I believe it will be much better than it is today.
Okay, sawa sawa. At this juncture, Kimanzi now is where we call it, the parting shot. Just for you, yeah. Just say anything. What do you think?
Anything.
Yeah, just say anything. Parting shots. Kufunga mkutano.
In regards to what is it, advice? Is it? I
Yeah,
don't know how to give.
anything. I don't know. Advice. What do you think? Advice. Question. What?
Mhm. Okay, there's this thing BN said, it's been ringing in my mind. There's this CTA he did. I don't know if you watched it.
Yes, yes, I did.
Yeah, so there's this thing he said, and it's been ringing in my mind, and
Mhm.
it reflects so much on many things. And it would be, I guess I'll just repeat it because it's been in my head since then.
Okay.
He said what? He said, when it comes to you, it will come to you. I don't even remember the format, but how it's replaying in my head is when it comes to you, it will come to you. Just be prepared.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
So whatever you want to do, I believe, as long as you're prepared, things will work your way.
Sawa sawa. By the way, that CTA was, I think, one of the best. I don't know how many CTAs you've watched.
I've watched
Um,
so many. I've been a consumer of CTS since siku za jua kali Nameless. That's 2019.
sisi ndio wale tulianza na CTA. Remember siku za Prezo? Ulikuwa?
Prezo is one of my favorites.
Me too. Why do we share? Prezo and then Calligraph and then BN for me.
Those
For
I've
you?
watched. I don't think I've missed an episode, especially for musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And now currently I'm watching the Njugushu one, also very inspiring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ni sawa sawa. So thank you guys who tuned in to the show. We really appreciate, for making effort and coming to learn a bit about influencing space in Kenya, and we are really grateful. Just to say that kindly hit the subscription button hapo chini, the notification button, and also you can go back and maybe just have a look on some of our previous interviews. You'll get to learn a lot from some of the people that we've interviewed in our past shows. So you guys have a great evening. Let's connect on Friday. Kimanzi. talking.